I never thought the night my reflection blinked back at me would be the beginning of everything. I was brushing my teeth, foam spilling down, when the mirror version smiled wider than me. It wasn't my smile too sharp, too hungry, too stretched, like it wanted to tear skin apart. I dropped my toothbrush, the sound echoing, but my reflection kept brushing like nothing had changed. "Stop," I whispered, but the glass girl's eyes flicked up, and she whispered the word back. I ran from the bathroom, leaving the light on, but the whisper followed like breath behind me. Mom thought I was tired, Dad thought I was being dramatic, but I knew I wasn't. At night, the mirror hummed faintly, like an electrical current, though the house was completely silent. The humming grew louder until I swore it was inside my chest, vibrating through my bones. I avoided the mirror all day, but when I looked accidentally, my reflection wasn't wearing my clothes. It wore something black, stitched from shadows, dripping like oil, moving against the glass like liquid. I screamed, but no sound came out, only a wheeze, as if my throat were closing. Mom rushed in, asking what was wrong, but the reflection showed nothing unusual when she looked. "Nightmares," she said, brushing my hair, but her reflection stayed behind her, grinning at me wickedly. That night, I dreamed of hands dragging me through glass, shards cutting, blood dripping, laughter echoing. I woke up with cuts on my arms, thin red lines like scratches from inside-out glass. I hid them beneath my sleeves, afraid to explain, because no one ever believes these things. At school, the bathroom mirror wasn't mine. It showed me dead, with my eyes sewn shut. I stumbled back, clutching the sink, but a girl washing her hands asked why I looked pale. I couldn't explain, but when I turned again, my corpse self smiled, black thread dangling from lips. I ran out, heart pounding, stomach churning, convinced something in the mirrors was trying to escape. The more I avoided glass, the more it appeared. Windows, spoons, even my phone screen betrayed me. Each reflection was different. Sometimes smiling, sometimes crying, sometimes scratching the glass so hard it cracked. I began hearing whispers from every reflective surface, urging me to look, daring me to touch. At night, my bedroom mirror rattled violently, shaking the wall, though no earthquake rocked our neighborhood. I stuffed blankets against it, but in the morning, they were shredded, wet, and smelling metallic. Blood. I think it was blood, because my hands stained red when I touched the cloth. I screamed, but my parents only saw clean blankets, not soaked, not torn, not dripping crimson. They called a doctor who said I was stressed, but the reflection stood behind him, smiling. I wanted to smash the mirror, but something in me whispered that breaking it would release her. So I endured the taunting, the whispers, the scratches, the bleeding smiles of my other self, until one night, I caught her stepping halfway out, hands clawing the carpet, hair dripping wet. I froze, breath shallow, unable to scream, watching her drag her body halfway through the glass. Her mouth opened wider than humanly possible, whispering, "Switch," before her hand shot out toward me. I stumbled backward, knocking over a lamp, but she slipped back into the mirror like water. The lamp's shattered pieces reflected dozens of her faces, each one mouthing, "Soon." I didn't sleep for days, terrified she'd come through completely and take my place forever. The school bathroom became worse. I saw her behind every girl, mimicking them like grotesque puppets. Once, I saw her slit one girl's throat in the mirror, but the girl stayed alive beside me. That's when I realized the reflections weren't fake, they were futures, or maybe desires, waiting to bleed. The cuts on my arms deepened, even without my touching them, like invisible glass kept slicing. My parents cried, begging me to explain, but every word died because she mouthed them first. She was stealing my voice, my face, my gestures until even I couldn't trust my own body. I tried covering all mirrors, but reflections appeared in puddles, in polished wood, in my pupils. One night, I woke to find her standing fully in my room, smiling with my face. Her eyes were darker though, like endless pits, swallowing every trace of humanity I had left. She whispered, "Time's up," and I swear I felt my heart stop beating for several seconds. I lunged for the door, but it wouldn't open. The handle twisted uselessly beneath my sweaty hands. She stalked closer, bare feet silent on the carpet, her shadow stretching longer than the room. I screamed, and finally Mom burst in, but Mom froze, staring at me with confusion. Because she saw two of me, one by the door, one by the bed, both breathing heavily. Her mouth opened, but before she could speak, my reflection grabbed her throat and smiled at me. I hurled myself forward, tackling her, but my body passed through like smoke, cold and damp. She dragged Mom into the mirror, screaming, the glass rippling like black water swallowing them whole. I pounded on the mirror until my fists bled, but only my reflection stared back alone. I collapsed, sobbing against the cold glass, terrified my mother was trapped inside forever. But when I looked closer, the mirror showed her laughing, eyes hollow, skin crawling with shadows. "Join us," she whispered through the glass, her voice broken, layered with static and hunger. I screamed until my throat burned, but no one else in the house woke to help. Dad was gone to his side of the bed, cold, sheets perfectly smoothed, like he'd never existed. The house itself seemed different, walls stretching longer, shadows darker, air tasting of iron and rot. Every step creaked like bones snapping beneath me, as though the house had grown a spine. I grabbed my phone, desperate for help, but the screen lit only with her black-eyed smile. She moved inside the glass, mouthing, "You can't run, you belong to us already." I hurled the phone, but shards scattered, each screen piece still reflecting her endless hungry face. That night, I dreamed of drowning in mirrors, sinking deeper while dozens of me pulled me down. I woke gagging on water, lungs burning, sheets soaked with icy liquid smelling faintly of blood. The clock blinked 3:33 a.m., its digits melting into dripping black symbols I couldn't understand. I whispered a prayer, though my voice trembled, and the shadows laughed louder than my words. By morning, the house was empty, silent, except the mirrors whispered like beasts trapped inside glass. I tried to leave, but every door opened back into the same hallway, looping endlessly around. Windows showed only static, as though outside the house no longer existed, only buzzing darkness. The only way forward was toward the biggest mirror, the one in my parents' bedroom. I stood before it, trembling, but my reflection didn't move. It only grinned, teeth to sharp. Her lips parted, revealing something writhing in her throat, crawling like insects desperate to escape. I turned away, but the door slammed shut, locking me in with her hungry stare. The glass rippled, and suddenly she pressed her hands against it, palms bleeding, nails clawing furiously. "Switch," she demanded again, her voice low, guttural, like 100 echoes vibrating beneath her skin. I shook my head, whispering, "No," but she only laughed and cracked the glass with her skull. The room shook violently, and the ceiling light flickered until darkness swallowed me whole. When the light returned, I was no longer in the bedroom. I stood in the mirror world. Everything looked the same but rotting. Walls dripping, floors cracking, air filled with whispers of dead voices. I saw shadows moving like people, but their faces were mine, all twisted in agony. They crawled toward me, begging for help, their mouths sewn shut, eyes bleeding black tears. I ran, stumbling through endless halls, each wall lined with mirrors showing worse and worse versions. One mirror showed me hanging by my neck, another buried alive, another screaming until my jaw tore. I couldn't look away, each reflection pulling me closer, promising it would be my future. Finally, I collapsed, sobbing, whispering, "Please, I just want my life back, I just want out." And then she appeared, my reflection, whole and perfect, wearing my smile as though it belonged. "You're too late," she whispered, tilting her head. "You've been mine since the first blink." She reached out, this time fully crossing through, her hands ice cold as they clamped my face. I tried to scream, but my lungs filled with black liquid, drowning me in silence. She pressed her forehead to mine, whispering, "I'll wear you better than you ever did." My vision blurred, my body weakening, as I felt myself being pulled apart, ripped into pieces. The last thing I saw was her stepping into my world, standing in my room. She turned to the mirror, now holding my body perfectly, while I screamed voicelessly from the glass. I clawed at the surface, but my hands left no marks, only bloody smears inside. She looked back at me, smiling sweetly, before walking away into my house, my life. I screamed until nothing remained, until even my thoughts were echoes, fading inside the glass prison. And now, if you look close enough in your mirror, maybe you'll see me waiting.